All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going to dive into some really fascinating stuff,
Yeah.
focusing on like a super pivotal moment. You know that whole thing with Adam and the woman and the
Right.
the command they were given and all that. And you've brought some sources that really zero in on what happened
Right.
right after, like the immediate consequences. And there's this really interesting element of, I don't know, like
Yes.
a surprising response that we're going to get into.
Exactly. So the core of it, comes from this document called Lesson 11 Provision of Coverings.pdf.
Okay.
And it really does a good job of laying out this, this sequence of events.
Yeah.
You've got the creation and then the fall, which is what we're really focusing on. And then it kind of goes into some of the major things that happen after that.
Gotcha. So, okay.
Yeah.
So we've got all that bad news, right?
Right.
It's like dominoes, right? One thing leads to another. And
Yeah, exactly. This cascade of consequences.
yeah. Yeah. That's a good word. Cascade. Like all this hardship just kind of comes crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
So for the woman, there's like the multiplication of pain in childbirth.
Right.
Like, ouch. Right. And then like, oh, this is interesting. The very start of conflict in their relationship.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, that's something we still deal with today, right?
Right. Like it started right there.
Yeah. That tension, that friction.
Mm-hmm. And then for Adam, you've got like the hard labor, the toil in his work, the eventual death, for both of them.
Right.
And then even like the earth is thrown off balance. It's just like, whoa.
So, like their whole existence was recalibrated.
Right.
I mean, you think about it, they went from this place of ease and harmony to one of struggle and mortality.
Yeah, it's huge.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's not just, one area of their life.
Yeah.
It affects their relationships, their environment, their connection with God, everything.
Okay, so we've talked about all this bad news, but then Adam does something surprising.
Right. And this is where it gets, really fascinating because in the midst of all this, there's this unexpected response from Adam. When God is, giving the pronouncements, it's not argument. It's not despair.
Right.
It's something else entirely. It's an act of faith.
Okay, so unpack that for me.
Okay, so after God speaks about the woman's offspring, Adam names her Eve. And the lesson makes it clear that Eve, or Hava in Hebrew, means life or life giver.
Interesting.
And, it's important to remember, this is actually the second name he gives her.
Oh, right, right.
The first time he called her woman.
Yeah.
Isha, because she was taken out of man.
Right, right.
But now he calls her Eve. And the timing of this, the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
This is what's really fascinating.
Okay, so tell me more about why the timing is so significant.
Well, think about it. He's just heard about the increased pain in childbirth.
Oh, right.
And yet he chooses a name that points towards life, towards future generations.
Yeah.
Wow. The lesson really emphasizes that this renaming is an act of faith. It's like he's choosing to look beyond the immediate pain.
Yeah.
And focus on the promise, on the hope of future life. Maybe even with a sense of, understanding that there's going to be this descendant who will deal with the serpent.
Right, like he's looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly. So in the face of all these challenges, Adam's choice of name reflects this deep belief in God's promise.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, what does it say about human nature?
Right.
That even after this huge failure, there's still this capacity for hope, for faith.
Okay, so we've got this act of faith from Adam, and then right after that, God does something pretty significant himself, right?
He does. He provides them with coverings made of animal skins.
Yeah.
And the way it's presented, it really seems to link these two events together.
Oh, interesting. Like Adam's faith and God's provision.
Exactly. Like one follows the other. And it's important to remember, before all of this, before the disobedience, Adam and Eve were naked and unashamed.
Right.
But afterwards, everything changes.
Right.
They become aware of their nakedness. They feel shame, and they try to cover themselves with fig leaves.
Right.
Making these simple loincloths.
Yeah, and they hide from God.
Exactly, out of fear.
Right. Okay, so you've got these fig leaf coverings, but then God provides something different.
He does. And the lesson is very intentional about contrasting these two types of coverings.
Okay.
So the fig leaves, those were something they made themselves.
Right, they sewed them together.
Yeah, sewed them together. And they're described as, loincloths, which suggests they were pretty flimsy, pretty temporary.
Yeah, okay. But then God provides garments of animal skins.
Right. And the text uses the Hebrew word katanet, which usually refers to a tunic, something that covers more of the body, from the shoulders to the knees. So it's a much more substantial covering.
Interesting. So it's not just about being clothed, it's about the kind of covering they're given.
Exactly. It seems to be saying something about the nature of God's provision.
So what's the significance of that? Why this particular kind of covering?
Well, the lesson highlights a few things. First, God's provision seems to be a response to their guilt and shame.
Okay, yeah.
It's like he's acknowledging their new reality, their vulnerability. And then it's probably also because the fig leaves were just inadequate.
Yeah, they were probably uncomfortable too.
Right. So God provides something better, something more lasting.
Right. But it gets even deeper than that, right?
It does.
Yeah.
Because the material strongly implies, although it doesn't explicitly state it, that innocent animals had to die to provide these skins.
Wow.
Think about that for a minute.
That's heavy stuff.
It is. For Adam and Eve, this would have been their first encounter with death.
Yeah.
And the realization that their actions had consequences, not just for themselves, but for other creatures.
Right, like a ripple effect.
Exactly. And while the text doesn't go into detail about how this happened, or specifically mention blood or atonement, the connection between the animal skins and the death of those animals,
that's pretty clear.
It's hard to ignore. And some interpretations even suggest this idea of substitution, where the animal's death serves as a replacement, providing a covering.
Wow. So it's not just about getting better clothes, it's about a cost, a sacrifice.
Exactly. And even in the midst of all this judgment, all these consequences, your notes point out that God's provision is also an act of grace and kindness. It's about taking care of their needs in this new, difficult reality.
Right. So we've got human failure, but then this divine response that's both judgment and grace.
Right. It's this amazing tension.
Yeah. Okay, so as we've kind of gone through all this, there are a couple of big takeaways.
Yeah.
First, even with all this devastating news, Adam's response isn't just despair.
Right.
There's this glimmer of faith there. You know, the name he gives Eve.
Yeah, he's looking ahead.
He's focused on life, on the future. And then second, God doesn't abandon them after they disobey. He provides this covering, this lasting covering.
Right. It's like he's saying, I'm still here, even though things have changed.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
It is. And that element of sacrifice, it really underscores the seriousness of their actions and the impact they had on everything around them.
So for those of you listening, think about this. We've got this picture of human failure, but also this amazing divine response.
Yes. Judgment and grace.
Exactly. And it makes you think, right?
It does.
Like, how do you respond when you face tough stuff? Do you just wallow in despair, or can you find that point of hope to cling to? And what does it mean when, when there's a sacrifice involved in providing a covering, whether it's literal or metaphorical? Lots to think about, right?
Definitely. Something to ponder.
Yeah, something to ponder. All right. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.